And then we got a good transition into Killer Cuomo. So while Cuomo was out there yipping away about Amy Cooper, just like Mayor DeStasio was, drawing false conclusions about this ordinary, everyday human being from the fine country of Canada, being wrongfully judged. And by the way, people should think about that, by the way. That means there might be multiple jurisdictions people could sue it. Just an idea. Maybe a great Canadian lawyer will step up to the plate and be co-counsel. So Killer Cuomo or COVID Cuomo or whatever a nickname. Maybe we'll crowdsource on locals the best nickname for Cuomo.
I'm reading through the chat. I mean, just wait. If only Trump were on Twitter, I'm sure he would have come up with a nickname for Cuomo. But Cuomo's name in and of itself is going to live in infamy. I mean, it is over the top. What's so offensive and over the top, it is what he's done. It is also in conjunction with the audacity that he had to try to blame it knowingly on other people. And to knowingly blame it on other people, I think I put this on Twitter in an undone tweet. He tried to effectively blame his own failings on his political foe so that he could profit politically from his own negligence is too light of a word at this point because they knew what was going on when they were doing it. But he's trying to profit off the people that he is responsible for having ended their lives. And he's trying to profit off it politically by putting the blame on Trump. It's beyond the pale. But okay, sorry, the legal issues. What is he facing? Like, what can he face as a politician? Is he not going to have some form of immunity? I know sovereign immunity does not apply to criminal complaints. So what could he be facing for this?
So the big one, the easy one, probably the one they'll target him on, is obstruction of justice, because it appears he instructed staff members to lie to the Department of Justice during Trump's administration so they wouldn't know how many people his policies had killed, how many grandmas and grandpas he'd whacked. So that's the big one. That's obstruction of justice. That's a federal criminal investigation. So he can't hide behind his allies in the state criminal process. That's going to be a federal criminal prosecution. Now, it's the Southern District of New York or the Eastern District of New York. So we'll see how that goes.
He won't be able to hide behind his allies in New York, but is he not going to be able to hide behind his allies in the federal government and the new administration and Psaki, who seems to be giving him a pass on any form of public admonishment for the time being?
Well, there might be a vice president that would like to see Cuomo taken out of future competition. So the people might want to study Kamala Harris's political history. She learned her politics figuratively and maybe literally at the knees of Willie Brown. So Willie knew how to handle things. And so I think that's a substantial part of what's happening politically. That's why I don't think he'll get the political protection. I think that's why it's all developing. And all of a sudden the press is starting to cover this in ways that, they wanted to cover Ted Cruz going to Cancun when he's a senator. He's not a governor. He can't have any influence over what's happening in Texas, frankly. Probably not the most politically smart thing to do, but by no means that consequential. It's not like Newsom partying at the French Laundry while he won't let anyone else go out to eat in the whole state, and he's killing jobs and businesses in the process. But I don't think it's a coincidence that Newsom's facing a recall threat or that Cuomo's facing major public scrutiny. These are the two major potential contenders for 2024, using their COVID platform as the basis to do so. And one, that their policies have just failed in general. So that's problem one. But problem two is there's a vice president who has no interest in competitors like that being around. Kamala Harris makes Hillary Clinton look like a Girl Scout when it comes to politics.
Well, no, but that may be a legitimate point, but I think at this point Cuomo's too damaged, indictment or criminal prosecution or not, he's too damaged for any future political use. But truth is, memory is sometimes short in politics, so it's
I think the biggest problem, once his staff member came out and said, I was basically instructed to lie by Cuomo so that they didn't know, to the Trump administration wouldn't investigate us about what we were doing, that he was sunk. And now all of his political adversaries are coming out talking about how they were threatened this time, intimidated that time. So Cuomo's in serious trouble. He will, my guess, within a year, he'll either resign or face criminal prosecution.
And I swear to you, I'm not even asking this as a joke. It's going to sound that way because of the world we live in. What, does he lose that Emmy award that he was given for his leadership? Like, do they revoke that? And I'm serious.
Yeah. I mean, it's Hollywood. So, but yes, it makes such a crock. They gave him an Emmy for killing grandma. I mean, so that doesn't make the Emmys look good. Maybe they give him the opposite of an Emmy. I don't know. I forget what they call those joke awards for like terrible films and the rest. But the someone in the chat will probably remember the name of the satire awards for like worst film, basically. But he and Newsom are definitely up there for worst governors, maybe ever in their respective states.
What I do love, I just brought this one up. It says Cruz needs to stay out of it. What I love is the respective emphasis that the Cuomo awfulness is getting compared to Cruz is going to where did he go? Cancun. Going to Cancun for vacation.
Which that probably was the crime.
No, it is. Wait, why?
It's Cancun.
Okay. Okay. I think first of all, so I'm not. Just so we're clear, I'm not judging Cruz. I think the optics are bad. The optics are bad, and you know the way it's going to be weaponized. People don't seem to appreciate that Newsom's hypocrisy is different. It's not when someone is sort of critical of certain government measures, they're not hypocrites for traveling. It's the ones who are telling you not to travel while they travel. It's the ones who are telling you to stay home in a tweet that they pre-shot and published while they're in St. Bart's, true story of Toronto. So Cruz taking the trip, bad optics. I wouldn't have done it. And you know it's the way it's going to be used. But to turn that into the scandal at the same time that the truth of what Cuomo did in New York is coming out, the media is not the friend of the people. I mean, it's quite clear that they are willing to. They're paying some attention to it, but they're willing to gloss over thousands of deaths resulting from negligent, if not outright criminal misconduct, to go after Cruz for a vacation that he probably pre-planned. It was probably pre-planned. If he booked it during the crisis, the optics will be even worse. But to even equate those things on the level of media attention that they've been getting is itself should be discrediting of any media organization, but it won't be. But whatever, people still like reading about it, and they like getting offended about it because it's Parkinson's law of politics. It's easier to get mad at Ted Cruz for his trip than it is to get mad at Cuomo for what he did, because one is a lot schemier than the other. Okay, rant over. What do we move? Do we nothing more on Cuomo?
Nope, I think that covers Cuomo. Well, I mean, it will be a test of the system, because while they're drumming up excuses to go after Trump, if here you have a policy, and like here we're one place they set a precedent. They required the governor of Michigan to plead effectively to what happened in Flint, and that's small change compared to what Cuomo did. So if Trump faces various prosecutorial actions, if the governor of Michigan, who is Republican, had to face it for what happened in Flint, then by golly, Cuomo's got to face it in New York. And if not, it's going to be an indictment of the criminal justice system again. And we're witnessing that in live time to a brief topic. But what Cernovich laid out was clearly correct, that there's a double set of standards being applied in the Capitol Hill cases. People that were arrested, people that are being charged now solely for wandering into the Capitol without there even being evidence that they knew they were trespassing at all, who committed no act of violence whatsoever, who didn't appear to even be aware of what was taking place. Jack Posobiec noted the phones were not working that day because they'd shut them down around the Capitol, so that you couldn't even know what was happening. And to now be not only charging those people, but imprisoning them without bail. They're charged with misdemeanors. The Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution requires that bail be granted. The only limitations on that are clear and convincing evidence that there's no set of restrictions whatsoever on that person that can preclude their appearance at trial, that can assure their appearance at trial. And so instead, these D.C. judges, clearly the D.C. Circuit, D.C. District Court, is looking like it's so political and so partisan that it simply cannot constitutionally apply the same set of constitutional standards to people. This is the same D.C. court system, by the way, that allowed almost everyone who committed actual violence during Trump's inauguration to walk with no consequences. And now they're jailing grandmas. They're jailing people that just wandered in, that there isn't even good basis to believe they're guilty of any crime in the first place. And they're only charged with misdemeanors, and they're being locked up and held without bail for who knows when they're going to do a trial. So it's a repeated constitutional violation of what's taking place there. and it is a morally offensive behavior, and it's our DC court system failing us, and it's because the media and the Department of Justice has no interest or incentive to be constitutionally fair, and they're educating the world, right? That they can they can find every single person who wandered into the Capitol within days and bring the whole force of the government down against them within weeks. But they could never seem to find their way to figuring out how to prosecute or punish anybody seriously connected to spy.